Welcome everybody to the DC New 52 review. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode. I am your host, Pauly DC, and let's get into another one of these things. Today I will discuss Justice League Dark Vol.2. It was titled The Books of Magic, and it was written by Jeff Lemire with art by Mikel, Janin, and issues number 7 to 13 plus 0 and annual number 1 were produced between May to December of 2012. The New 52 had the dubious distinction of being able to say the Justice League Dark team premiered during its years, and it consisted of the magical and macabre characters in the DC universe, starting with John the Hellblazer Constantine, Zatanna Zatara, Deadman Boston Brand, Ruckshade or the Changing Man, Madame Xanadu, and newcomer Jay Young, aka Mind Warp. In their first arcane adventure, the group took on powerful witch June Moon, more commonly referred to as the Sorceress, with intensely disturbing results, but now that they are known public knowledge, way bigger things are in store for them. Issue numbers 7 and 8 have already been covered in my I, Vampire Vol.2 review due to the team getting involved with centuries-old vampire Andrew Bennett and his jaded lover Mary, Queen of Blood, since Vol.1 of this title ended on events surrounding a very evil vampire lord named Cain. Now, quite a bit went down in that 4-part crossover, including John and Deadman visiting the afterlife with comedic back and forths. Batman and his allies were present due to the battleground being Gotham City. Madame Xanadu had to visit her, father in the Crystal Zone. Not really sure I see the family resemblance here, but anyway, she brokered a deal with him to turn I, Vampire into God Vampire by siphoning power from all her magical allies without their consent. And in the biggest piece of content already covered from this title, Ruck finally loses his fight with the M-Vest that he wears and seriously struggled with in Volume 1. Thus, the Changing Man entered the freaky Rainbow Realm. Issue number 9 enters us into the Books of Magic storyline, and we first see a captured Constantine being dragged through the Amazon jungle by a freaky cult belonging to longtime DC villain Felix Faust, a sorcerer type, of course inspired by the character from German legend, who debuted in Justice League of America number 10, 1962 by Gardner Fox and Mike Sekowsky. Felix is very interested that John is present here after being brought to a temple, but he's got his reasons, also revealing the JLD got a new member in shape-shifting female Black Orchid, and after she reveals herself to be one of Fausti's flunkies, more of the team then jump in, such as Deadman, Zatanna, and I, Vampire Andrew Bennett is back to help fight the cult. I'll also mention this fast, there have been 4 females to be called Black Orchid in DC, however this one, Alba Garcia, was original. Things then jump back a week ago inside Constantine's London flat and him being tracked down by Steve Trevor, who co-starred in the Justice League series. Now, this interaction is great from beginning to end. John thinking that he was so drunk the night before he slept with Trevor and his lifestyle getting a yikes from him. Then there's mention of things involving Wonder Woman and Steve, leading into mention of Argus, a faction seen all over the New 52, but most importantly, Trevor has access to the Black Room, a place seen in other series containing the USA's secret stash of all mystical and magical items. confirmed to be real to the skeptic Constantine with Dr. Destiny's Dream Stone, a character seen later on in this event. Steve gets to the bottom line next, though, saying he wants the JLD. Actually, quick sidetrack here, Argus actually made up that term since that title hasn't actually been spoken yet, and it's comically called Awful by John here. Anyway, he is asked to retrieve US hero agent, sorcerer, Dr. Mist, or Nomo Balawa, because he is missing. This character goes back to Super Friends number 12, June 1978, by E. Nelson Bridwell and Ramona Fradon. Steve then also shows here that Black Orchid is another Argus agent, and if this mission gets completed, John gets a peek in the Black Room. I also really liked how Constantine tried to nick the Dreamstone here too, right up his alley. Back to the jungle, our team has entered Faust's temple where he sicks freaky arachnid creatures on them, and Bennett says here he wants to get back to his people and to lead them, except no mention of his time doing any of this is said in iVampire Vol.2. Moving on, things cut back a couple days with John convincing the team to help him with Xanadu saying no, while mentioning we won't be seeing Mind Warp again. Andrew has a favor called in, though, that he promised at the end of the Rise of the Vampires story, and Zatanna is convinced with promises of Blackroom access, along with a lie that John saw her father Giovanni Zatara's legendary magic hat inside of there, and this gets her to convince Deadman to join up as well. With that all sorted, this brings us to how we started as the team fight Felix and his arachnids, but during the battle they were able to pull a switch involving Black Orchid posing as John in order to surprise attack Faust and neutralize him. Everyone then finds the captured Dr. Mist, and after recovering him, they enter a hidden center of the temple that contains the, drumroll, First Tesseract, an 8th dimensional map that will lead to the 4 books of magic. Issue number 10 begins with the Justice League Dark, along with Dr. Mist brewing up a new plan due to not wanting to tell Argus about the books of magic, so Deadman has taken over Black Orchid's body on Constantine's request, which she's very unhappy about when released, but Dr. Mist convinces her what they're doing now is the right thing. This guy being so willing to betray the US government should have been a big red flag, but more on that later. John next reveals that he is now the current owner of the House of Mystery, a very powerful place that he apparently won in a poker game with Father Time from Frankenstein's title, and Dr. Occult, who we will see a bit later on here. Zatanna then gives a quick history snippet on the house, saying it has a twin called the House of Secrets, which were both ongoing series introduced in the 1950s. I also liked how Bennett was so surprised to see the House of Mystery with Constantine, since our iVampire got created in a rendition of that comic. And when everyone is welcomed in, they meet John's demon butler, Null. This man is so full of surprises. Cutting over to Madame Xanadu, she is having one of her freaky visions, seeing the JLD dead again, but this time Swamp Thing, Etrigan the Demon, and Frankenstein are among them. A rather evil Constantine then jolts his way in, corrupted with power from the books of magic. However, he tells Xanadu that she must stop him from doing this, and to find the one who can. Back to the team, stories are told of how Merlin and Mordru were the ones that created the Magic Cube map. Then, Andrew randomly decides to leave, except that's no problem because John next reveals if you accept his invitation into the HOM, you become tethered to him and he can summon you back to it whenever he pleases. Now that is turning the tables on a vampire regarding an invitation into a home. The others, especially Z, are also quite pissed about this, and she becomes very vexed when John says he lied to her about her dad's hat. That was a major a-hole move, and only Deadman is able to talk Zatanna into staying. Over at Argus, Steve Trevor is with a Dr. Von Eden going to check up on the recovered Felix Faust, who immediately mentions that he's got a nasty plan in store for everyone. Dr. Mist and Black Orchid are seen next discussing what to actually do with this Books of Magic knowledge, but as Zatanna quickly points out, they shouldn't have left John alone because he tried to tamper with the map artifact, thus releasing a trap set up by Faust, aka the Demons 3. And here, Dr. M gets to show his impressive power involving him absorbing then redirecting magic. The demons are quite sneaky though, being able to snatch the magic map and then jump into a limbo portal, ending up right in Felix's prison cell where Steve is trying to force answers out of him. Issue number 11 continues right from the previous one with the Demons 3 helping Faust escape, and before Trevor gets into real trouble, he calls in huge sentry golems for defense right as the Justice League Dark teleport in to assist. Black Orchid goes on the offensive while Deadman possesses Steve in order to save him from danger, and finally, Dr. Mist uses a huge burst of power to fend off the demons, seriously weakening him though. Zatanna then picks up the slack, showing her magic against Felix, while Trevor calls for a Code Black. In other words, because things are so bad, Constantine is actually granted access to the Black Room after meeting head paranormal scientist John Peril. Back out in the hall, Zatanna and Deadman fight Faust and his demons, with Boston getting sent back to a trip to the Dead Zone. Yikes. And if it weren't for Constantine arriving with new magical gear, including Merlin's staff, Z would have met the same fate. Now, this next scene contains a lot. First of all, Felix notices a tattoo on John's wrist that totally dumbfounds him. Then, thanks to some basic distraction from John, he gets possession of the magic map and attempts to open it with a special skeleton key from the Black Room. Only problem with this is the unlocking of the map unleashes unsuspected power, and before Constantine can do anything more, he is knocked out by Dr. Mist, who reveals himself to be a traitor not only to Argus, but the JLD as well. An interesting twist considering he and Felix Faust were bitter rivals in past stories. As for what Xanadu has been up to, she's reading her tarot cards and having memories of time with Zatanna, John, plus young, powerful mage Timothy Hunter, who aptly debuted in the Books of Magic number 1, January 1990 by Neil Gaiman and John Bolton. However, here he faced highly dangerous things, causing him to give up magic, and it gets even worse because when Xanadu finds him, he tells her that he gave all of his magic away. Major bummer. Issue number 12 opens on a flashback from Nomo Balawa's past, with him being a legit doctor during the Ugandan Bush War in the 1980s, alongside his wife, who was tragically killed, sending him on the journey of becoming the mystical Dr. Mist. Jumping to the present, Steve and the Justice League Dark try to stop Felix Faust and his newly revealed pal from escaping with no success. Really like how these magical battles are drawn too, but anyway, everyone tries to next figure out where the hell their foes might have went to, while Deadman makes his return from whatever the great beyond is to him. As the team then splits up, we see Xanadu with Timothy telling her he performed some type of phoenix exorcism ritual to expel all of his magic. There had to be some kind of suspense and anticipation here. That's what I will say for now. Heading over to Peru, Dr. Mist and Faust appear to have a third partner who likes to smoke, but before you think it's Constantine due to having the same tattoo on his wrist, Felix questions about this ink with the guy saying he and Johnny have history. Enough of that for the moment, because after the magic map is opened, the trio find out the 4 books of magic are located in Nanda Parbat, a long-time special place in the DC universe, and the Mystery Man is also informed that Constantine currently owns the House of Mystery. Not very good news for Dr. Occult, since he still has ownership over the House of Secrets. So with this unseen yet wildly magically powered person wanting to be equal to John, he takes out Dr. O and steals the house. Oh boy. Sliding back over to Peru quick, Zatanna and Deadman are chatting, although I have no idea how she can navigate a jungle the way she's currently dressed. But alas, they are suddenly attacked by a druid called Black Briar Thorn, a creation from 1984's DC Comics Presents number 66. To wrap things up, Constantine is with Black Orchid taking a limbo trip in the House of Mystery, while both of them try to get intel out of each other along the way, with hints that Orchid may be linked to the Green, a big importance in Swamp Thing, and then John is asked why he and Z are no longer a couple, to which he says her dad, Giovanni Zatara, died because of him years ago during some magic circle. Wow. The two next arrive in Slaughter Swamp, speaking of both knowing Alec Holland, but neither of them are aware of the danger about to emerge in the giant fire troll, Black Boris. Issue number 0 was thrown into the middle of this story, and that's because it consists of a young, yet-to-be hell-blazing Constantine traveling from England to New York in order to increase his magical skill, which takes him to the Oblivion Bar, wherein he meets original character Nick Nolan, or Nick Necro, who interestingly dresses just like John does now, beige trench coat, loose tie, and all. Quick fact, that Abraxas word John used to enter the bar is believed to have real magical power going back to ancient Greek and Gnostics. Fascinating stuff. Anywho, the younger Zatanna then makes an appearance, instantly mesmerizing Constantine in all forms with her stage show. However, she belongs to Mr. Necro now, and he laughs off John 2 minutes after meeting him. Well, lucky for our main guy tonight, because Nikki is a current target of the Cold Flame cult, and when one tries to jump him, John saves the day, impressing his soon-to-be mentor and friend enough to be invited into his circle. And even though Z came off disgusted with John a scene ago, now they are sharing cigarettes as she gives him lascivious looks. Moving on, the three begin to embark on years of magical adventures, showing us Zatanna also has the same rune tattoo as John and Necro, but over time, Nick became obsessed with the books of magic, turning dark, cruel, and distant. So what does Constantine do? Well, he supports his friend and tries to help him. Yeah, friggin' right. He immediately steals his girl, beginning a relationship with Zatanna, and they are caught in the act pretty fast, resulting in some thought-provoking words being said. Some days later, Nick contacts his two old friends saying he's in trouble, which then takes the duo to an old warehouse where they see him about to be killed by the Cold Flame cult, except it is actually a setup as Necro has joined forces with his old foes. The reason is obviously to get revenge on John, but also because Zatanna's dad was an enemy to the CFC, and they want her too. Plus, things are made even worse when it is stated that anyone who dies on these magic grounds, their soul is going straight to hell. Not a great idea due to Constantine being the slippery devil that he is, since some sleight of hand and fire distracts Nick long enough for Z to take down the Cold Flame goons, while John fatally stabs Necro, turning him into a necrotic shell thanks to his soul disturbingly being removed. He does try to plead with John, asking for help from this horrible fate, so some assistance is actually given to save him. Yeah, friggin' right. Constantine does jack shit and then steals Nick's jacket, which he wears to this day. My oh my. Issue number 13 returns to the main plot, beginning with Black Orchid and Constantine taking on Black Boris, ending on this talkative troll being captured by something called a fairy cage, which was snuck by John from the Black Room. Also, he notices that Orchid's powers are unusually connected to both of the green and the red, which is big in Animal Man's title. Cutting to Zatanna and Deadman, they are still fighting Blackbriar Thorn. Yes, there's lots of things with black in the name here, but anyway, Boston goes for his biggest possession yet, entering this foe, and after acrobating his way through the woods, he captures the old man inside, thus saving Z from a splinter-filled demise. The victory is only short-lived though, due to the House of Secrets showing up with Nick Necro coming out freshly returned from hell, causing Z to completely crap her pants, and this is the guy who recently killed Dr. Occult and is working with Felix Faust and Dr. Mist, but I'm sure y'all already deduced that. This all coincides with Felix ambushing Tim Hunter shortly after Xanadu left him, so she tries to help and is actually able to escape with him. The Madame is definitely more powerful than she appears. Aside from that, Deadman and Zatanna try to fight Nick to no avail, even when Black Orchid and the stun to see Necro Constantine arrive. They can't do much at first as Bio gets absolutely clocked here, but after that, John still doesn't stop from giving it all he's got, yet still nothing can be done, resulting in Z agreeing to leave with Nick as a hostage, but not before giving John a departing kiss and advice. Things don't end there though, as Deadman, Orchid, and Constantine get into a house race through Limbo, chasing down Necro, Zatanna, and Dr. Mist, leading into Null being told to release the gargoyles. But a move like this was anticipated as the attack is instantly reflected back on them, causing the House of Mystery to viciously crash. Justice League Dark Annual Number 1 concludes this book starting on the HOM having crashed out in the Sahara Desert, the team being embarrassed for getting their asses kicked, then Constantine telling them who exactly this Nick Necro is, and finally, the one, the only Frankenstein from the Shade organization hits the scene to recover and assist them. Over in the HOS, Zatanna and Nick go on in conversation with him telling the wicked story of his journey to find the Books of Magic, eventually taking him to the jungle temple that contained a skeleton of Mordru, which hid an ancient message and the magic cube map that gave Necro a vision of ancient battles and a legendary boy king, who, you guessed it, is Tim Hunter. As for how Necro escaped out of hell, Faust did the classically on-brand move for himself in selling his soul to a demon, turning him from the normal version we'd see to this withered and old look, all in trade for Nick's release. The two then concocted their plan with Dr. Mist to manipulate Argus and the Justice League Dark to unlock the map, and just after having arrived in Nanda Parbat, the reason for everything being done by Necro is so that he can pull the ultimate con on the ultimate con man, aka Constantine. I'd say this is way over the top petty, but I guess going to hell would do a thing or 7 to your mental state. Back to the team, the HOM has repaired itself while John and Frankenstein talk, clearly having been acquainted before. Then Xanadu and Timothy run out from inside so everyone can be told about her grim visions, and Mr. Hunter can break the news that his magic is gone. No problem though, because John produces a special amethyst gemstone that he got in the Sword of Sorcery series, which I will of course cover later on, and this violet quartz summons Princess Amaya from Gemworld, a skilled swordswoman, also full of magic, and when Tim tries to calm her down due to basically getting mystically kidnapped, they connect, thus restoring his powers, which is exactly what John wanted. Frank then welcomes Amaya to the group while Constantine recruits Andrew Bennett again, who is seriously pissed but still joins in, no questions asked. Cutting back to Nanda Parbat, Nick, Dr. Mist, and Zatanna are meeting with Faust and his cult group, plus Blackbriar Thorn and Black Boris are there. How did they just randomly show up after seeming to be defeated? I don't know, and I don't care. The three antagonists also begin to quarrel amongst themselves here. Not a good scenario because the Justice League Dark is about to attack. They all charge out of the HOM, immediately putting their collective talents on display before splitting up, wherein BB Thorn tries to pull the I'm an old man trick on Amaya, except Andrew is old enough to know that this one is bullshit and stabs him away before saying he can't truly be killed, but is gone for now. Black Boris, meanwhile, takes on Frankenstein, and although formidable, Frankie is the real badass here, cleaving the fire troll's head clean off. Orchid and Deadman are also finishing up with Felix's cult, allowing the team to reconvene in order to prepare for this penultimate chapter, which is already having Necro and Faust argue on how to open the map cube. However, when the books of magic are finally found, they reject everyone due to apparently belonging to Tim Hunter. Easy fix for Nick, who offers Zatanna's freedom in exchange for the boy's death, which Constantine takes by friggin' snapping young Timothy's neck. Holy shit. This nearly gets him wasted by his own teammates now until Black Orchid reveals she was a fake Tim, and this simple chicanery is what it takes in the end to subdue Necro, while Felix and Mist surrender. Any celebration has to be held off though, because Mr. Hunter suddenly feels the urge to open the books of magic that call him Master Hunter and almost look technological inside, but when the energies begin to lift Tim, Z tries to help him until both are teleported away with no explanation. Alright. My obvious admiration for this series may come out as I discuss the plot. It was honestly beyond enjoyable. expanded cast with other new 52 threads coming, such as Argus and the Bat Family. There was a great original villain that presented huge stakes for everyone, and the Zero issue was one of the best ones, taking Constantine's recognizable outfit and turning it into a piece of the story. He went from the punk rock Brit look to almost copying Nick after usurping him. Bottom line, Jeff Lemire understood what to do with this content perfectly. Now for Mikel Janin's art, it is spectacular. Bright, fresh, detailed, along with coming off realistic and creepy at the same time. From the fights with fire trolls to the way the magic is displayed to every single character looking on point. There is so much to enjoy. With dialogue for last here, it surely was the trifecta to make this title a standout thanks to its sophomore outing. Volume 1 opened the door and Lemire dashed right through it. A slew of personalities that came off as unique began to emerge. Even the supporting players and foes had a way of being different. This book was a lot of fun to read. Before I start getting into every aspect of how everyone talks though, I'm gonna wrap this up here, and if you've watched until the end, I want to personally thank you for that, and to please like, share, and subscribe. Please follow me on all my social media platforms, and to please join me next time for Suicide Squad Volume 2.